In this video, we'll demonstrate how to install our BA32 Bluetooth Retrofit Kit into the BMW CM5905 or CM5907 radios. For tools, we'll just need a few small Phillips head and flathead screwdrivers, along with the BMW anti-theft radio tool, which we'll put a link in the description where you can buy it. Let's review the parts that should be in your kit. You should have the BA32 circuit board itself, a combined microphone and aux cable, a microphone and clip, and a 5-pin wiring harness. Let's start with the radio in the car, or at least pretend it is. The first step is always to disconnect the car battery. To remove the radio, use a small flathead screwdriver to pry up on the plastic door at each side of the radio. Use the BMW special tool to unscrew the screw under each until it stops. Grab the doors and gently pull the radio out of the dash. Disconnect all the wiring connections on the back of the radio and take it to a workbench or table to continue working. At the bench, let's begin by removing the top lid. Remove these 2 screws from the back of the lid and these small black screws on each side. With all 4 of these, use a well-fitting screwdriver and be careful not to round out the heads. Sometimes they can be very tight. Use a flathead between the lid and radio chassis to pry it rearwards until you can pull the lid up and off the radio. Next, we're going to remove the faceplate. Use your fingers or a small flathead screwdriver to gently pry the volume knob and tone slider knobs off. Remove the 4 screws holding the faceplate on here, 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 and here. Looking towards the front of the radio from inside, gently depress this black plastic tab with the flathead to release the faceplate and pull it straight away. We need to remove this circuit board at the front left. It's held in with 1 screw. There's a dab of solder touching the screw, but press firmly on your screwdriver and it shouldn't be hard to break the joint. Pull the circuit board out and lay it over the side. Let's go ahead and remove this piece of paper and tape. On this front piece, use a finger to hold down the flexible plastic connector it's stuck to as you gently pull off the tape. Next, we have to dismount the LCD display. There's a tab on each side holding it against the chassis. Take a small flathead and depress these tabs, allowing each side to come forward. Pull it down and out of the way. Behind the LCD, unplug this wiring connection to the cassette deck. Underneath, remove this screw that secures the LCD backlight assembly to the radio chassis. Pull the backlight assembly forward and out of the radio. If your radio has this circuit board at the rear, not all do, we recommend removing it. Pull off the paper cover and save it, then remove the single screw and lay the board over the edge. Remove the 2 remaining wiring connections at the back of the cassette deck. Begin with the one on the left. Grab the wiring bundle near the base and rock the connector side to side while pulling up. The connector on the right holds in this white flat cable. It has a locking sleeve we need to unlock to remove the cable. Use a flathead to gently work the sleeve up until it stops. Now you can pull the cable up and out. We're finally ready to remove the cassette deck from the radio. It's held in by 5 screws we'll take out. These are located here, 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 and 1 on the side over here. Grab this grounding strap now and bend it up and out of the way. We're ready to remove the cassette mechanism, so make sure all the wiring harnesses are out of the way, then grab it on either side, wiggle it, and pull it up and out. Next, we need to transfer one of the mounting tabs from the original cassette mechanism over to the BA32 board. It's held on with 1 screw, so remove that from the cassette mechanism, and then use the screw that came in the hole on the BA32 board to fasten the tab to the board. Make sure you hold the tab flat as you tighten it down. Remove the other screw that came in the back left corner of the board and set it aside for a moment. Working in the radio again, we need to remove this harness that plugs into the back of the volume circuit board. Move this upper wiring harness out of the way, and then grab the bundle of wires and pull rearward, and the connector should come out. Now use the 5-pin harness that came with your kit and plug either end into that connector on the volume board. Give it a light tug to make sure it's securely in place. Okay, we're almost ready to install the board. Let's start by getting all these wiring harnesses out of the way. And for the white flex cable, straighten out the crease that's in the end of the cable. That'll make things easier. Now grab the board, slot it in at the back left end first. Now feed that white flex cable through the hole in the board and drop the board down into place. Let's get it screwed into place now, starting at the front left corner. Align the hole and start the screw. Don't tighten any of these down yet until we get them all started. Now get the back right one going. Turn the radio on its side and align the board so that you can see this screw hole through the chassis. Then use the screw that we removed from this location to tighten down into place, and then go back and tighten the others that we've started. Bend this ground strap back into place and reinstall its screw. Now we can start connecting it up. First, grab this harness that we pulled out of the volume circuit board and give it a couple turns so that the wires stay twisted together, and then insert it into the connector labeled volume out on the BA32 board. Now grab the other end of the black harness we installed and connect it to the volume in connector. We'll install the white flexible cable that comes up through the board next. Start by inspecting the cable to make sure that all of the metal ends are nice and flat, not overlapping, not bent up, and if they are, just gently push them back into place. Now take the cable and push the crease that was previously in there back into it so that the end of the cable kind of points down. And now grab the connector on the board and pull the outer sleeve up, which puts it into the unlocked position, and insert the cable. Now you can push the cable as far down as you can while holding it in the unlocked position, and then push the sleeve down to lock it. When everything's correct, you shouldn't see any metal exposed outside of the connector. Finally, let's install this harness at the front right. It goes into this connector here. Okay, let's reinstall the LCD backlight. That's this piece here. Note that it's got a little tab on the bottom on each side. We want those tabs to sit in front of the radio chassis as we push it in. Once you've got it in place there, go ahead and install your screw in the back. But note that the yellowed piece of plastic it tightens up against is really brittle by this time. So just almost stop as soon as it touches it, or else you'll crack it right off. Verify that the tabs are still where they should be. Now for the LCD itself, remember that each side has a little tab on it that needs to catch behind the chassis. So on the right side, you should just be able to slot it in there. And then on the left, use a little flat head to depress the tab, catch it behind the chassis, grab it and move it to make sure it's in place. Let's reinstall this little dangling circuit board on the left. It's got a little notch in the front that needs to catch in that hole in the chassis. So do that and then drop it into place and reinstall the single screw that holds it down. If your radio has this little board at the back, now's a good time to reinstall that and its paper cover. And now let's reinstall the faceplate. It just presses straight on from the front, and you'll want to push in the middle so that little tab catches that's behind the center. Now reinstall the 4 screws that hold it on. Push the volume knob back into place, as well as both EQ knobs. Notice that all of these have a correct orientation. Last thing to do inside is install the mic and aux cable that came with your kit. Install the rectangular end into this connector here on the board. And notice that there's a little cutout in the chassis right here of the radio. This is where we're going to route the cable through. Make sure that the knot end is on the inside of the radio to act as a strain relief. Time to reinstall the radio lid. Notice that there's 3 tabs that need a catch. One here under the front lip, one here under the lid, and then one here also under the front lip. While holding that front edge in place, bend the back of the lid outwards until you can drop it down like so. Reinstall the little black screw on either side, as well as the two on back. And that's it. The rest of the installation is the reverse of removal. And don't forget to connect your microphone and possibly aux cable when you install the radio in the dash. Speaking of the microphone, this is our recommendation for its placement, at least in an E30. We find that leaving the adhesive backed mount with the adhesive backing still on, and then tucking it into this piece of weather stripping holds it nice and securely. Route the cable down through the weather stripping, remove any under dash bolsters required, and route the cable over to the radio area. Thanks for watching. We hope this video made the installation process as smooth and painless and clear as possible. If you do have any questions, please reach out at our support email or find us on Instagram.